let's talk about Lanfear in Book 2, The Hunt for the Horn, because she shows up in a bunch of random places and influences this story significantly from the shadows, seemingly from the shadows, right? Like, she shows up and then she disappears.
Yeah, multiple places.
So I was reading this, some parts of it, the Hunt for the Horn, or the Great Hunt. And some things popped out at me, and I wanted to talk to you about this. So here, at a high level, here's my theory. I think Lanfear was in the hunting party from Fal Dara the entire time.
Oh. Yeah, like, I wonder if she was actually disguised as anybody? Because
I didn't think about that. I thought she was invisible. But that makes more sense. Like what you said about her being disguised as someone, I think that's maybe a combination of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not, right? Because it depends on whether or not there was another person that she could have been. Because as soon as Varen showed up, she would have had to have. I guess she wouldn't have had to do anything because she can conceal herself from channelers, right?
But on a point to her being invisible, when Rand and Loyal disappeared into the mirror world,
yeah,
it's very well known that Lanfear was the one who initiated that transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no one else was reported missing.
Yeah.
No one else was mentioned as being mysteriously gone, which they would have been.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but we know that Uno saw her before the portal stone, the first portal stone.
Well, I think it's highly likely.
Highly likely.
So I'm going to read. Uno sees a girl, and then the girl disappears.
Yeah.
If Lanfear was with the party the entire time, like, it had to have been her. And if she was like being invisible with the power, then like that whole passage makes sense. So I'm going to read that real quick. Where Uno is reporting to Ingtar. So this is, the Great Hunt. Just bloody gone, burn me. Like they picked up and decided to flaming walk away in the middle of the bloody day. He stopped suddenly, pointing urgently to a house behind Ingtar. There's a woman at that window. How I bloody missed her. And then he goes running for the house, and then he comes back, kicking things in frustration. And he says, here, gone, my lord, but she was there. A woman in a white dress at the window. I saw her. So, like, that had to be Lanfear.
Had to have been.
And she had to have turned invisible.
Yeah.
But I think she was there before that, like, well before that.
Yeah.
I think she was in Fal Dara. Like, the evidence towards her being there is Rand felt eyes on him.
Yeah.
And I always kind of assumed that to be...
To just be the assassin that was trying to kill him, or just him being, like, suspicious. So yeah, I mean, it could have been Fane too, but...
I always assumed that to be Fane, but Fane at that point eventually left, and he still felt eyes on him. And in particular, there's one point where Rand was walking through a courtyard, and he swore he heard footsteps.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, I mean, it's highly likely that she found him in a Fal Dara. Like, where else could she have found him to start following him, right? It's not like she could just home in on him, right? Like, she would have had to have known that he was there in Fal Dara.
And especially given that they avoided, not that they avoided, the group itself didn't avoid farms and villages. but the Trollocs and like all the Dark Friends, they avoided villages for the most part, and only when they like needed to, they they pretty much wiped out everyone in the villages that they came across.
Yeah. And if another Forsaken had been a part of that, they would have just taken the horn.
Right. They would have done their own thing.
Yeah.
Where Lanfear, I think Lanfear was with the party the whole time.
Yeah.
And Uno saw her.
Yeah.
And that was her one slip up. And then like shortly after that, that's when they find the portal stone, and Lanfear uses the portal stone to bring him into the mirror world so she can do what she wants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's also Egwene. She specifically dreams that a woman in a white dress is touching the portal stone. She didn't know what the stone was, but that event was in her dreams.
I thought at one point Egwene even saw Lanfear, and she was like, "What are you doing here? Like, you don't know what you're doing. This place is mine," or something like that.
Yeah, that's much later.
Yeah.
in the stories. But this is specifically just in book 2.
I mean,
Egwene had that dream.
In my opinion,
like right after.
Lanfear is like responsible for almost every major event in book 2. This is definitely into weird theory territory, but in my opinion, after the second portal stone, where there's that big gap, right? It's like 6 months or something like that, when they teleport out. Like, we still don't know who was responsible for Egwene and Elaine and Nynaeve being kidnapped and given to the Shanshan, right?
Wait, hold on. Before we get there, let's try and follow this in a more linear manner.
Okay.
Let's talk about the events that happened in Cairhien.
Yeah.
Because she obviously met them in the mirror world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all those events in the mirror world.
Yeah,
and then, she disappears in the middle of the night. Okay, so they get to the village. Like they come back.
Oh, you're skipping
get
over
to the village,
and even getting the horn, right? Because she's like, you should get the horn. Like, think about the glory.
Yeah. I'm not trying to do a retelling of the whole story here.
Yeah.
Just like the mysterious things that Lanfear's doing. So they get all the way to that village with the man holding the crystal ball. They're digging that out of the hillside, and they're staying in the inn there, right?
I do want to throw in here, because I think this is important. She was touching his saddlebags and things when they were on Kinslayer's dagger, and in my opinion, she was putting a tracking device on him.
Yeah, she could have. She doesn't need to put a tracking device on him. She could just put a weave around him, and there's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right?
She was snooping.
Obviously, Moraine had the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. She disappears in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody saw her leave that inn.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Traveled or whatever. Yeah.
Or she could have just gone invisible so that she could continue to watch him as I think she was doing the whole time.
I will point out that during that time, she said, "I have other matters to attend to. I'll come back. Don't die."
So later, in Cairhien, she obviously mysteriously out of nowhere shows up again when he's being chased by Trollocs in the Foregate.
Yeah.
Like seemingly out of nowhere. And then again disappears. Like they escape the Illuminators, right? And then she's just gone.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't, to me, speak of traveling. If she had a gateway open, whether like that's a big visible thing. But if she just went invisible, she's gone. Later, before they go to Barthanes' party, Rand is sitting in his room, and he's reading the letter from Lanfear, or the girl, right? Celine. And he's reading it as he's like getting ready to prepare, and he smells her perfume.
Oh, really? That's creepy.
And he's just like, oh, I'm just being a fool. It's just in my head. I'm being silly. But I don't think so. I think she was actually in the room with him, and she was invisible.
I mean, it's definitely not something I'd put past her. I mean, also she would also be the same type of person to put her perfume on a letter. But either way.
Yeah, and then they go to Barthanes'
to the manor
party.
And it's known that after the party, something, somewhere tore Barthanes to shreds and put his head on a pike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's either indicating Lanfear or the Golem, like the first indication of the Golem. But we know Lanfear's not afraid to mutilate and leave a message either. Like Kharid's skin, for example.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, who killed Barthanes? But at the same time, it's really interesting. This is the only time we know of she is the only Forsaken known to be in the area at the time.
If she really was following Rand around invisible, then she would have been there in Barthanes' party.
And she would not hesitate to torture Barthanes to get what she wants. And if she heard something she didn't like, she might lose it. Such as ladies, essentially offering themselves up to Rand.
Yeah, for sure. And we do know that her rage isn't always directed.
Yeah, she does not act appropriately.
This is kind of where I lose my thread of like, where's Lanfear? There's a very real possibility that she was following them all the whole time, and was even there when Rand did the second Portal Stone mashup. And
for me personally, I feel like this is where we split, right? Because if I were Lanfear, I'd be like, oh, dude, he's trying to use this Portal Stone. I am out. I'm not going to be... I know how crazy Portal Stones can be. I'm not getting in there with him. And this is why I think there's some merit to the idea that Rand talked about how he was potentially still promised to Egwene in maybe not so many words. And then this is why I think that he left with the Portal Stone and she continued her conniving and maybe even set it up so that the women from his village were sent to Fal. Like, she probably planned to get rid of them because she was trying to pull him in. And that's my theory on that.
We were talking earlier that he told her that he was promised to Egwene, and I was saying, I don't think he ever said that out loud. He definitely thought it when he was with her. But something in my mind is saying that he said it out loud.
Oh, I mean,
when he thought she wasn't around.
He could have even said it in a dream,
himself.
Who knows? It was well talked about in the Shienaran court that he was promised to Egwene.
That's true. And if she was hanging out around there, which I think she was, she would have known this information.
I think it's weird because I
don't know.
Only Egwene and Nynaeve were targeted to be sent off to Shan Chan as slaves, right? Elaine was actually planned to be taken care of, as Leandrin said, right? Because no one knew about his relationship with Elaine. Otherwise, I feel like there would have been something different there, too.
He'd seen her once.
Yeah.
When he was, he fell into the garden. That's it.
Well, I just want to say, for Forsaken, the Dark Friends would have been taking care of Elaine because she was a friend of them. But a Forsaken would have just Unless they were conniving like Lanfear, where they like really wanted to get back at people for being into Rand, then they would have just killed them, right? Like trying to send them off to become slaves just sounds too cruel, and is right in line with Lanfear.
Yeah. We know that Lanfear was there, Toman Head, when all of this was going on. I'll be looking now for more like hints or women in white dresses in Toman Head next time I read it. But so we know she was there because out of nowhere she picks Rand up or she doesn't pick Rand up, Min does, but she walks directly into this random house. Into the random bedroom where Min has him.
Whole time.
So she was just there watching the whole time. And then she heals Rand, So she was there. She was watching everything.
I don't think she heals Rand, but
Toman Head the whole time.
Either way, she was there.
I'll read that particular scene again, but I'm pretty sure she just does a basic healing on him when Min is like there. He's in the bed. He's on the verge of death, and she heals him. I think. I'll reread this whole part because I want to look for signs anyways. But and that maps directly to her Arthurian counterpart with the Holy Grail and Avalon and her character mapping into the Arthurian worlds.
Well, yeah, it's a fun little discussion to think about how much influence she had on book 2.
Yeah, very secret influence that was going on. Maybe I'm being crazy. I would love to hear people's comments about.
Yeah, and if they agree with me on whether or not Lanfear could have killed Barthanes Damodred,